My name is Jeff Cross, and this is Straight Talk. I'd like to welcome today to the program Dr. Gavin Macgregor-Skinner, the director of GBAC. Gavin, how are you?
I'm good, Jeff. How are you doing today?
Doing pretty good. Hey, Gavin, in the news, we're seeing that the CDC is issuing its first set of guidelines on how fully vaccinated people can go back to normal. What do you think of that? And what does it mean by fully vaccinated?
Jeff, this is pretty incredible, actually. This is the federal government giving us the first set of guidelines, which gives us the first indication of what the new normal will look like. And I think you've asked that critical question. What does the federal government mean by fully vaccinated? Now, people are considered fully vaccinated. So you've got the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccines. And they're 2 doses. You're not fully vaccinated if you get Pfizer or Moderna vaccine until 14 days after the second dose. Now, we know that the Johnson & Johnson's Janssen vaccine's just been approved for an emergency use. You're not fully vaccinated, and it's a single-dose vaccine, until 14 days after that single dose. So what's really important for everyone to understand, if it has been less than 14 days since your second shot with Pfizer or Moderna, or your first dose with Johnson & Johnson, you're not fully protected.
So if you haven't been fully vaccinated, what can you do?
Well, if you have been fully vaccinated, this is where I like this new guideline that only came out yesterday, March the 8th, from CDC. It says that if you've been fully vaccinated, you can gather indoors with fully vaccinated people without wearing masks. So imagine how we're going to interact now going, "Hi, Jeff, I'm Gavin. Have you been fully vaccinated? If so, we can hang out." The other point is if you gather indoors with unvaccinated people, you can do that with one household. This is really important for, say, grandparents, for example. Grandparents who haven't seen their grandkids for months and months and months. If the grandparents have been fully vaccinated, by the definition, they can actually go and visit the household and visit their grandkids for the very first time.
So they're not going to give us a card that we can hold up and say, "I have my vaccine."
Well, when you get vaccinated, Jeff, and anyone who's out there who's been vaccinated, they'll get a vaccination certificate. And it's important. It's a piece of paper. You don't lose that piece of paper. But it's important that you keep that record, and it's important that you're able to then show that when you're asked for it. Did you get the first dose, the second dose? If you're using Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, or with the Johnson & Johnson Janssen vaccine, it's a 1 dose. So that piece of paper now has become very, very important. Don't lose it. Or if you do lose it, get a replacement. But what I'm suggesting to everyone, if you get vaccinated, you have the vaccination certificate, get your phone out, take a photo of it, and keep the photo so you can refer to the photo at all times.
Yeah. You mentioned that we'll be asking people, "Have you been vaccinated?" We might be asking for proof as well. So show me the
Possibly.
proof.
Yep.
What hasn't changed, Gavin? What has not changed?
So right now, Jeff, based on these new CDC guidelines, if you've been fully vaccinated, this is what hasn't changed. You still need to take all the steps to protect yourself in many situations. You need to wear the mask, physical distancing, stay at least 6 feet apart. You need to avoid crowds, especially indoors in poorly ventilated spaces. You need to take these precautions whenever you're in the public. Again, when you're gathering around or meeting with unvaccinated people that may be highly vulnerable, highly susceptible, have underlying medical conditions. Or when you're getting into areas where they're, again, at all times, avoid these larger size gatherings, these crowded areas. The CDC also specified yesterday that you still need to delay domestic and international travel. And that's really important. So you've still got to follow the CDC requirements and recommendations when it comes to domestic and international travel. And you still need to watch out for symptoms of COVID-19 disease. So remember the vaccine, all the vaccines, Jeff, were designed to prevent severe symptoms and to keep you out of hospital. It still is possible. You can get infected and you could still have symptoms. So you still need to understand that if you do have symptoms of COVID-19 virus disease and you have been vaccinated, you need to get tested, you need to stay at home, and you need to stay away from others.
All right. So is there anything when it comes to vaccines, what we do know and what we're still learning?
This has been a real challenge for all of us, is to keep up with the science, the evidence, and the new information that's coming out. But here's what we do know right now, what we know about the vaccines and what we're still learning about the vaccines. We know that the COVID-19 vaccines are effective at preventing the COVID-19 disease, especially severe illness, especially hospitalization, and even especially death. So we do know that they work preventing severe disease. What we're still learning, Jeff, is how effective are these vaccines against, and you've heard it in the press, the newspaper and the TV, the variants of the virus. And we're seeing the variants now pop up all over the United States and especially around the world. We're still learning about how these vaccines, but the early data, the early research shows that the vaccines may work against some of the variants, but it could be less effective. But again, we're still collecting more information. We also know that the prevention steps that we've been doing now for nearly a year are very effective at protecting us from spreading and catching and being infected by the SARS-CoV-2 virus that causes COVID-19 disease. What we're still learning, Jeff, is how well do the COVID-19 vaccines keep people from spreading the disease? That's really important. Now, early data here shows that the vaccines may help keep people from spreading COVID-19, the SARS-CoV-2 virus that causes COVID-19, but we're still learning as more people get vaccinated. The other thing that we're learning is that we're still got to learn is how long do the COVID-19 vaccines provide immunity or protection for people against developing severe disease?
Some answered questions and some unanswered as well. So I guess we'll keep going with these topics as we see information coming out. Gavin, thank you for your time today. Be safe out there.
Thanks, Jeff. And just remember, as we learn more, I'm pretty sure you and I will be back on to give updates to both vaccinated and unvaccinated people. We also, again, let's ensure that, again, follow those prevention steps that you've been doing previously. Mask, physical distancing of 6 feet, no crowds, especially in indoor spaces or poorly ventilated spaces. And remember, wash your hands with soap and water. And if you don't have water available, use hand sanitizer.
All the things we have to do. Thanks, Gavin.
You're welcome, Jeff.